Google is back in the open source game with the release of Gemma 3 and the benchmarking scores are insane. Gemma 3 comes in 4 different variants: 1 billion, 4 billion, 12 billion and 27 billion parameter model. The 1 billion parameter variant offers a lightweight solution ideal for edge devices. Coming to the 4 billion and 12 billion parameter model, they provide enhanced contextual understanding that can mainly be used for multilingual capabilities and as well as multimodality. Lastly, 27 billion parameter is the most capable non-reasoning open source model that outperforms models like DeepSeek v3, Llama 3 405 billion parameter model and as well as O3 Mini from OpenAI. In this video, I will walk you through the key features that Gemma 3 provides and as well as we will test out AI Studio where we will experiment with multilinguality, max puzzles and riddles using Gemma 27 billion parameter model. And then I also have a code implementation where we will implement function calling using open source version of Gemma 3, that is 4 billion parameter model from HuggingFace Transformers. So let's get started. First, let's understand the rough architecture and key features that Gemma 3 provides as per the technical report. You can also find the link of the technical report in description so that you can read it in detail. The first feature that we will talk about is the multimodality. So if you look at the introduction section, they have mentioned about the multimodality that Gemma 3 provides. It uses something called a Siglip Vision encoder. In simple words, you can understand Siglip Vision encoder that converts or transforms your image data into numerical representation, which is your image embeddings that can align well with text embeddings in the shade embedding space so that you get most relevant responses back to the user. The second feature is the increase in the size of context size to 128k tokens. So if you look at the 1 billion parameter of Gemma 3, it only has 32k tokens. But the 4 billion, 12 billion and 27 billion, it has the context window of 128k tokens. So it starts with 32k and then you extend it to 128k tokens using the concept of scaling rope embeddings. So rope embedding is nothing but rotatory position embeddings. So if you look at the paper, they mentioned we increase rope base frequency from 10k to 1 million on global self-attention layers. So I've also released a model called Buddhi 128k chat. The concept is similar. We use the base model that is Mistral, which has 32k context window. Then we scale it up till 128k tokens using a concept called YAN. So YAN stands for yet another rope extension. So you can check out the blog article that we have written and as well as the model card that is released on Hugging Face. You will find the link in the description. The third feature that Gemma 3 provides is the multilinguality. It supports around 140 global languages. So if you look at the tokenizer part, we use same tokenizer as Gemini 2.0, a sentence piece tokenizer. This tokenizer is more balanced for non-English languages. And not just that, if you look at the training data, each variant of the model is trained on different number of tokens. So we train on 14 trillion tokens for Gemma 3 27 billion variant, then 12 trillion for 12 billion parameter model, then 4 trillion for 4 billion parameter model, and 2 trillion tokens for 1 billion parameter model. So this is the training data that has been used. So if you look at this particular sentence, we also increase the amount of multilingual data to improve language coverage. So these are the three key main features that Gemma 3 provides: multimodality, increase in context window and multilinguality so that it can understand 140 global languages. If we look at the architecture, Gemma 3 model follow the same general decoder only transformer that was used in their previous models like Gemma 1 and Gemma 2. Mainly it is nothing but you have grouped query attention and pre and post normalization using RMS NOR. Last but not the least, if someone who is using Gemma 3 to build retrieval augmented generation pipeline or any LLM based application, you also need to understand what are the special tokens that Gemma uses so that you can use it in your prompt template. So if you look at the special tokens, you have user turn, which uses start of turn, then you have a keyword called user. For the model turn, you have start of turn, then model. For each user turn and as well as model turn, it closes with end of turn. So this is the special tokens which needs to be included in your prompt template. With this in mind, let's proceed with the demo using AI Studio. In order to use Gemma 3 model, let's head over to AI Studio. Once you are at AI Studio, you will find a section called model. By default, you will see Gemini 2.0 Flash. So what you need to do is just click on the drop down, scroll below, you will find Gemma, just select Gemma 327B. And now if you look at the token count, it will be 131072. Why? Because the context window limit of Gemma 3 is 128k tokens. I also told you that Gemma 3 has a functionality to understand multimodality. So if you upload any image or audio, it can understand that. But as of now in AI Studio, it is not supported. So if I click on upload file and if I click on any image, it says the current model doesn't support images. So what we will do is we have an alternative HuggingFace space, that is Gemma 312B IT. So what we can do here is we will just upload the image, extract the details from the image, come back to AI Studio and we will ask that question. So I'll just ask how many are there in strawberries. So this is a very basic prompt and it's been asked multiple times to understand base model if it is able to count properly or not. So if you see, let's count them. In the word strawberries, there are 3 R's, which is correct. Now what I'll do is I'll ask few riddles so that I can see if model is able to understand those riddles or not. So I've just copied one of the riddle. So it says, what is 3 by 7 chicken, 2 by 3 cat and 2 by 4 goat? So technically the answer is Chicago. So let's see if it is able to answer or not. It is able to answer, and not just that, it is also giving you a breakdown of it. So if you see, this is a classical riddle. The answer is Chicago and then there is a breakdown. So for an open source model, getting this kind of responses is really very good. And I've been exploring different models as well. But getting a structured responses and not just a straight based response, which is a very good way to provide the response to the user. Let me ask one more question. So here is the question. I have lakes with no water, mountains with no stone and cities with no buildings. Who am I? So the answer should be map. Let's see. Again, it is giving you the breakdown. This is a classical riddle. The answer is a map. So it is able to understand the riddles. So now let's proceed with mathematical reasoning, where I will upload an image. So this image is in Hindi. So we will test out both multimodality capabilities and as well as multilinguality capabilities. So let me upload that image. So once I upload this image, I'll just tell solve this question and return the response in Hindi and as well as English. So now let's just enter. So if you see the image, you have 7, 14, 42, 168. You're supposed to find out what is the next number. So alright, it has generated the entire response. So if you see, it was pretty quick. It didn't took that much of time. So you have the English explanation, you have the same sequence. It is trying to analyze the pattern, and based on that pattern, you are getting the final result. So the model that I was trying is a 12 billion parameter model, not the 27 billion. Still, it is able to give a step-by-step approach on how to solve it. So Gemma 3 has done a really good job in order to have a very structured response. As I said, multilinguality, multimodality, then you have long context, structured response, and as well as function calling. So I've also tested out in one of the application where it is doing very decent job in generating the JSON responses. But let's not deviate and come back to the topic. So the answer is 840, which is correct. And after that, it has also given the explanation in Hindi. So when it comes to Gemma or Gemini related models, it is very good in understanding multilinguality. So what is the difference? When it comes to Mistral or Quen or DeepSeek models, they give a very generic tokens out, which is very high level understanding. But when it comes to Gemini or Gemma, this is a kind of native person who understands the languages really very well. So this is one thing that I like about Gemini and Gemma models, that the native touch of multilinguality is really very good. So as you can see, you also have the Hindi explanation, that is correct. Now let's proceed with the next question. So the question that I'm trying to upload now is an intermediate level where you need some kind of reasoning that is involved. So since Gemma is not a reasoning model, let's try to understand if it is able to give the response or not. So I'll just upload that image and I'll ask solve this question. So if you see, you have 2 plus 7, which is 27, then 4 plus 4, 24, 5 plus 9 you have 42, then 6 plus 0 is question mark. The pattern that you need to observe is 2 plus 7, it is 9, 9 into 3 is 27, that is your response. Then 4 plus 4, it is 8, 8 into 3, it is 24. Then you have 9 plus 5, which is 14, 14 into 3 is 42. Then here you need 6 plus 0, then into 3, which is 18. So you need to get a response that is 18. So let's see if you will get the response or not. So it is trying to analyze. So it's gonna look at multiple approach, but this is good considering it's just an open source model. So if you see, it has stopped, it didn't give us the correct response. So if you see here, last what it has done is, it has given 2 plus 7, 27 and stopped at 23. So let's just extract the numbers and then ask 27B model to answer this question. So here are the numbers extracted. Okay, I'll tell extract the details as it is as per the image. So I need the order basically. So you have 2 plus 7, 27. Yeah, this is what I needed. I'll just copy this and I will ask the same question. Solve the above question. Enter. So let's see if it is able to give the right response or not. So as you can see, it's been 2 minutes and still I have not got the response. What I'll do is I'll ask the same question to OpenAI O1 and let's see how much time it takes to generate the response. And I'm using O1 model. I'll just click on the same question. I'll tell solve this. So let's see how much time O1 takes in order to generate the response. So as you can see, we already got the response in just 16 seconds. And it's giving us the right result that says 6 plus 0 is 18. This is what even I said. You just have to add two numbers and then multiply it with 3. I did try this question yesterday as well and I got 6 plus 0 to be 6. That was the final response generated by Gemma 3. But now it is taking way too much of time. So if you see, I still didn't get the response. It has stopped in between. That means Gemma was not able to answer the intermediate level mathematical reasoning. I'll ask one more question. This is also a very tricky question that you need a bit of understanding. So it's not hard, but it's just on intermediate level. So I'll just tell it to extract the numbers or details. I'll just tell extract the details from the image. So you have 2011, then 0785. So again, what the pattern is, you just have to add these two numbers. 2 plus 1, it is 3. Then 3 divided by 3, it is 1. Then 7 plus 8, it is 15. 15 divided by 3, it is 5. Then here if you see, you have 5 plus 4, 9, 12. 12 divided by 3, you have 4. You just have to add all the three numbers and then divide by 3. So here also it's the same. You have 8 plus 4, 12 and 12 plus 9, 21. 21 divided by 3, 7. And last you have 3, 5, 8, 8, 1. It's nothing but 9. 9 divided by 3. So your response should be 3. So I'll just copy this and let's see if it is able to give the response to be 3 plus, it should be 3. So let's see if I'm getting the response to be 3 or not. But to be honest, I can't compare a reasoning model with Gemma 3. Gemma 3 is doing a really good job when it comes to multimodality and the languages. So let's see if it is able to get mathematical as well at a very good position. So as you can see, you are getting the final response to be 7 and 7 is a wrong response again. So it failed at mathematical reasoning. It is very good in a very basic level of mathematical question. But when it comes to very hard maths related puzzles, Gemma is not that great. But considering multimodality feature and as well as translation, which is your multi-language, it's doing a very good job. It's time to look at the code implementation where we will build function calling with Gemma 4 billion parameter model. So let's get started. It's time for the final part of this video where we will implement function calling with Gemma 3 using HuggingFace Transformers. In order to proceed, we need to switch into GPU so that we can load the model weights. So just click on runtime, click on change runtime type and select T4 GPU and then just click save. And once this is done, we need to install the libraries. So in order to install HuggingFace Transformers, I'm directly using the GitHub repository. Why? Because Colab already has transformers inbuilt. So the version is different so that the latest release of Gemma doesn't overlap with the version that you have in Collab. So what I'll do is I will directly install it from the GitHub itself, and then I'll also install Accelerate so that we can use the processor. And then we have DuckDuckGo search. So why DuckDuckGo search? I need to have a function calling that can interact with the search. So that's the reason why I'll be using DuckDuckGo search. And now in order to load the model weights, we need torch. And then from transformers, we need auto processor and Gemma 3 for conditional generation. And what you have to do is you have to select the model ID. Since you will be using T4 GPU, you can use 4 billion parameter model. So that's the reason why I'm using 4 billion parameter model. And once this is done, you just have to define your model ID and the device map to be auto so that it can understand device that you have, whether it is CPU or CUDA. So I need it in the inference mode. So you just have to add .eval. And once this is done, just define the processor. So in order to define processor, you can just directly add processor from predefined model ID. So once this is done, it will load the model files locally within your Collab inference system. And once it is done, if you want to clear the cache, you can do that so that it frees up some amount of RAM. And once this is done, let's define the function calling that we need to do. So you have to define the function calling syntax within a single function. And the very important thing is you need to define the format of your input query. For example, here query is nothing but string. And then you also need to give certain context so that model understand when it has to use this function. So define the docstring, and you are also supposed to define arguments. So if you see, the arguments is nothing but just query, which is user prompt to fetch search results. So the data type of your input parameter and as well as the docstring with argument is very, very important. So this is the format. Make sure you define this format. So I'll just remove this. And now if you look at this, I'm defining the instance of DuckDuckGo search, and it has a function called text where you just have to give the query, and based on this query, it will get the 4 relevant top results from DuckDuckGo. And once this is done, you will get a dictionary. In this dictionary or JSON, you will have URL, you will have body, you will have other metadata. In our case, I just need the body content. And once this is done, just return that context. That's it. And now what I need to do is whatever function I have, I need to close that within list for the tools parameter. Now the question that I'm asking is, which teams played Cricket ICIC Champions Trophy 2025 finals and who won? So this happened recently in the month of March itself, which was around March 9th. Now the conversation, if you see, first you need to define system prompt. Second, you need to define human prompt. In the system prompt, I'm telling you are an expert search assistant. Use search to get most accurate details. So this parameter, whatever I have here, it should match with the function that you have. So this is optional as well, because I'm also giving this function over here so that model can understand which function it needs to take. But I'm just making it more instruction based so that it understands it very well. And once this is done, this particular prompt is taken from one of the blog article that Google team has written. So if you see Google Gemma 3 function calling example, there is a prompt template. I've just taken the same prompt template. So if you come back to the code, at each turn, if you decide to invoke any of the function, it should be wrapped with tool code. So this is very important so that if it is within this particular special tokens, you can give it to the eval function so that it can extract the details. So this is very important. The Python method needs the Python method described below are imported and available. So this is where I'm telling what are the available tools you have from which you need to select. In our case, it is search. So this is very basic prompt, and you can check out the collab link in the description. So now if you see, I'm just attaching the docstring and as well as the function that I have, and then I'm just telling the user message. So now if you look at the user message, you have role and then you have content. So here I'm just passing the user query. So what was the query? I need to know which were the teams in the Champions Trophy finals and who won. And now if you see in the processor, you have a chat template. So it has a very basic chat template. You need to override it with your own message where you have defined the system prompt and as well as the human prompt. So here, if you see apply chat template, first thing is your conversation, which you have defined here. the system and the human message. And then the tools. So tools is nothing but your search tool. And then you have add generation prompt to be true. And then the very important part is this one, tokenize to be true, so that you get the input IDs whenever you're running these inputs. And then you need to convert that into the model device you're using so that you don't have any overlap between CPU and CUDA. And once this is done, you just have to define your model.generate and pass the input. You can define your maximum new tokens as well. By default, this should be around 100 or 256, but I need it to be 512. And once this is done, you will only get the numerical representation. So I need to decode it back. So in order to decode, I'll be using processor itself. So once this is done, you will have the response. In the response, I only need the model term. If you look at the technical paper, you had user and you had model. So what I'm trying to do is I don't need the user term because it is already defined. I only need to extract the model. So what I'll do is I'll just extract the model details. So here I'm only extracting the model details. And now if I print the response, this is the function calling that it is doing, tool code. So why it is mentioning tool code? Because that was the instructions already given within the system prompt template. So this is why it is closing your search, whatever function calling you need to do, it will be within the tool code. So now what we need to do is we need to extract this piece of response and give it to the Python eval function. So this is again the code which was taken from this blog article. If you scroll below, you will find that particular syntax. So this is the function that we used. Again, this was released by Google team itself. Now I'm using the same function where I have a pattern. I'm using regular expression where you are supposed to extract the tool code and it will match the particular pattern and extract the details. So once it extracts the details, you're running result to be eval code. So eval is nothing but it executes the Python functions. It's nothing but the interpreter. Now if you look at the code, this code is nothing but what you have here. It will just take this search query and it will try to ask this particular, so it will try to execute this function. So once it executes the function, you will have a response that is given from the DuckDuckGo. So now if you see, I'm using that extract tool call and I'm giving the response which has search and the user query. And once that is done, you have this particular response. The 9th edition of Champions Trophy 2024 saw India being crowned as the winner. So it also says that after they overcome New Zealand in the final. So you have the two teams that competed each others in the final, which is India and New Zealand, and India were the winner. So this is as the response from the tool. You're not doing any LLM call as of now. It's just the response from the function calling. And once this is done, you have a final prompt where I'm just asking the results from the search is nothing but the keyword and user query is nothing but what I previously asked. And then I'm again appending it to the final prompt. And once this is done, I'm using the same functionality. So whatever you see here, it's the same. And then if I ask model generate with the final prompt that I have here, it is giving me the result. According to the search results, teams is nothing but India and New Zealand, and the winner, India, won the final on March 9th, 2025. So despite we are using 4 billion parameter model, it is able to understand the real-time context with the help of function calling. So this is it from the video. I'll just summarize when to use Gemma 3. Whenever your use case is related to multilinguality and multimodality, blindly choose Gemini or Gemma. If you are going with open source, use Gemma. If you are going with closed source, you can use Gemini. This is it from the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and the links of the collab and as well as technical report is in the description. Don't forget to subscribe now. Thank you so much.